Hello, and welcome to a live Deprogram with Keri Smith here on YouTube and Rumble. We are simulcasting on both. Now, we've been trying to do that for the past few months. So if you don't like YouTube, which I'm, you have great reason not to like them, then you can join us on Rumble. There's two options. Welcome. Today is Friday, May 3rd, and it is a overcast, a beautiful but overcast and rainy day here in Texas. And I got my flat cap on today from Pirate Toski. Thank you, Pirate. I love this cap. I wear it on special days. Usually when it's overcast, so it makes me think of the UK, or if I'm driving. I like it looks like a driving cap. But thank you very much. Thanks for being here, guys. If you're new here, this is a live show I do Mondays and Fridays where I talk about what's in the news, what's on my mind, what's on your mind, take viewer questions, kind of hang out, have community or fellowship, which is a better word, fellowship together. And today, I'm very glad for the regulars, those who have been here before. Welcome to new people, but especially hello today to the regulars because I just kind of want to hang out with you guys and share some jumbled thoughts. I'm going to try and put them in a linear fashion, but there's a lot on my mind. The topic today is, first of all, if you like the channel, if you like the show, you can subscribe here at YouTube. It costs nothing to hit subscribe to the channel so you get notified when there are new videos. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member or signing up at Locals, Patreon, or Subscribestar for as little as $1 a month. And I appreciate all of you guys who do that. Okay, so today's topic is public speaking. And yesterday I spoke at the Austin City Council. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. And I'll show, it was like a 2-minute speech. I'll show it. So I can better explain that if I can do this, anyone can do this. And that's true. It's if you knew me a few years ago when I was in the social justice world, when I was in the cult for 20 years, I was working, had a very, prestigious career according to the world, the standards of the world. I worked in entertainment. I managed comedians. I produced television shows with them. I booked national tours for them, helped them get book deals. We put out Emmy Award winning Emmy Award nominated comedy albums and did lots of TV pitches, did concert films. It's all kinds of interesting work, actually. A lot of it was. Also parts of it that I hated, like schmoozing and all that stuff. But you wouldn't have known that at that time, being in that career, I was terrified of speaking publicly. One-on-one, I was fine. But speaking in front of an audience or doing something like a podcast where people are watching, I would never. It terrified me. I think I was telling my husband this morning, there's an old interview with me and my business partner from years ago when we were running our own talent management company. I was managing comedians, she was managing musicians, and we were outside at South by Southwest, and somebody interviewed us for their YouTube channel. And I remember when that interview came out, this is my old the height of my old life. If I had just been talking to the interviewer one-on-one or with my business partner, there would have been fine. But the fact that there was a camera and I could anticipate an audience, it very much seemed to me like public speaking, and I went into that terror. Now, some of you have a fear of public speaking, so you know what I'm talking about. And so I froze like a deer in the headlights. And I was so nervous that not only was my whole body shaking and my hands, but my lips were shaking. And so to try and not let people notice my lips were shaking, I was frowning the whole time. So the whole time she's talking, I look so depressed. It's, my partner's talking and I think I said one or two things. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But if you look at me, the whole video pretty much like, because I'm trying to hold my lips down so they don't shake. That's how scared I was. And it was like that for me in front of, like I said, both actual crowds where I could see people, and then also anything that was recorded for an audience. So something like a podcast, like what I'm doing today, I could never have done this years ago. I'm saying all this because it's a practice, it's a skill that you can acquire if you want to. You can. If you have things you want to say publicly and you understand the importance of saying them now because of the crazy time that we're living in, I promise you, you can get better, because if I can get better at it, you can get better at it. Okay, so that's the setup for today. We're going to talk about this. And you may not want to, it may not be a compulsion of yours to get up and do a public speech. That's fine. Not everybody has the same uh, uh, compulsions, talents, gifts, interests, background, experience that's going to push them towards one venue of public speech or another, or one venue of speech or another. But I think hopefully this will be useful even for people who maybe they don't want to get up at a city council meeting and speak, but they want to be more confident in conversations with friends or family who disagree with them, and they have trouble saying what they really think because they're afraid. So maybe it will help you in that way, or maybe it will help you if you want to get better at expressing yourself online, or whatever the venue is. Hopefully you can find some of this useful. I've got a list of 10 things that I could think of that have helped me that could help you. And so we're going to go through those. But first, let me tell you about yesterday. So Texas passed SB 14 a while back, which, God bless Texas. We are one of the states that has now said explicitly, hey, uh, this should be covered under existing child abuse laws, but since you guys are changing the definition of abuse, I guess we're going to have to spell it out. You're not allowed to sterilize or mutilate children in the state of Texas anymore. And so that's now state law. Austin City Council, which is a city council full of religious lunatics. I say religious, I mean woke religious, my old religion. I went down there because my friend Michelle Evans was going to be down there speaking. She's the one that alerted me that this was happening. And I went down there because they were debating a resolution, and they ultimately passed it. I'll tell you this, shamefully passed it. They were debating a resolution, which is very toothless resolution, where they say, as the city of Austin, we disagree with the Texas state law, and we intend to help trans children, any children that want it. We intend, basically, they're saying we're going to support sterilizing and mutilating kids. They don't use those very accurate words, but that's what they're saying. And then they say within the law, which means I guess you're not going to do it because it's against the law. It's a complete virtue signal. It's a complete waste of time. It's a complete waste of time for them to do this. They have no power and no standing to flout the law. They're doing it as red meat, just complete window dressing, lipstick on a pig for their constituents, their woke constituents in Austin. Complete waste of time. And what was hilarious is, while I was there, I got to see the meeting was hours and hours and hours while you're waiting to speak. There was a really intelligent guy who got up at the beginning, a couple guys, one from the Sierra Club, another man who I think he used to work in management resources. I'm not sure, but he was very well spoken and came with lots of information. And they were there to speak about how Austin's about to run out of water. And they were talking about how Austin has grown like 5 times in size because of all the people moving to Austin, and how for the first time since the 1980s, they had charts and graphs and science, and they were showing all the, so for the first time since the 1980s, they were saying that Austin's using more water than they can afford to use, and that Austin is now just flouting the sustainability standards and not even they're just ignoring it, as if they're not going to run out of water. He's like, plus we're about to hit one of the biggest droughts that we've seen in decades. And so this is a real concern. And apparently he mentioned this, the city spent over $1 million to have an independent commission come in, a consulting firm come in and to take a look at the water problem and to offer a report. And so the city taxpayers paid for this report to be done. And after it was done, he was there talking about it. And he asked them, he's like, I just want to know how many of you in the city council have read this water report. and only 2 of them out of 13 said they read it. I don't even trust that those 2 honestly, I don't trust that those 2 read it, but at least the other at least the other 11 didn't lie and pretend they had they you're the city council. You just spent $1,000,000 of the taxpayers' money to get this water report, to know what's happening, and you don't care enough to even look at it. This city council doing a quick scan, I hate to I'm not gonna say that this judgment is sound because it's totally based on appearance, and that can sometimes be an indicator or a red flag, but it's not always. However, just looking around, I felt like a lot of these people look really dumb, and the guy speaking was very smart and knowledgeable, and they look like they didn't even wanna be there. They're just kinda like, you know, like, they were getting up and going to the bathroom a lot. They didn't really care. They're not doing the things they should be doing for the city of Austin. You're the city council. You should care about the water problem this guy's up there talking about. I never even heard about that. That's what you should be addressing, but instead, you're wasting time passing a toothless resolution that's a complete virtue signal and a waste of time and spending hours on it because, of course, this is a hot button cultural issue. So you're gonna have people on both sides come out and speak. And you're wasting all this time so that the 4 city council members who put this resolution forward can, you know, look like good people in front of the people who think that that's good, that sterilizing, mutilating kids is good. That's all you're doing it for, attention. I don't think they care about anything except winning future elections, except the power that they think comes with being on the Austin City Council, the prestige of that. That's it. I was thinking about it. I was talking to my husband. I said, "I don't even think I'm not convinced that they even believe that we should be transing kids. I don't think they care one way or the other. I think they're just saying and pushing what they think they need to do to be in that political position." We've been watching the John Adams, docuseries, and I highly recommend it. It's a few years old now. Paul Giamatti, he's great, Laura Linney, it's a great series, and it's just amazing to watch, one of the founding fathers, this brilliant, thoughtful, wise person with good intent who is in this for the right reasons because he thinks about big picture things. He thinks about what really matters and what's important and what's best for people. He thinks about philosophy and faith. And it's amazing to be watching that series and then have it juxtaposed with this clown show at the Austin City Council. Complete clown car. There was one woman on the city council when it was their turn to speak. She spoke forever, first of all. She also several of them on the council, when they spoke, they chastised those of us who came to speak against this resolution. They didn't show an unbiased nature. They thanked the people on the other side for coming. They engaged in Darvo and projection, and they said our side was aggressive. We weren't the ones screaming and shouting and hissing, which is what the other side was doing when we spoke. It was a complete reversal of what was really happening. And one of these women actually said that, the reason these meetings go so long is not because we take so long to talk, the council, because somebody had chastised them for taking so long to talk. Some guy earlier, I think one of the smart guys, he said, "I come to a lot of these meetings, you guys just say things to be heard speaking." There's a Bible verse about that. Praying on the street corner just to be seen praying. He was basically saying a lot of these city council members speak just to be heard speaking. There's nothing important in what they're saying. He said it's all politics. It's all about trying to get reelected. And she did that. And she criticized that gentleman who said that. And she said, we up here, city council, she said, we are like the talent. We're like Beyonce. She said this. And basically it's all of you who make these meetings take so long. And then she said, "It's a Thursday night. I don't want to be here. My show's on. I don't want to be here." I'm like, "You are elected by the people and paid to be. None of us are paid to be here. This is your job. This isn't our job. You're doing a shitty job." That was like one of the funniest parts of it. These clowns, absolute clowns. This is what passes for politics these days. I told my husband, it's sort of like there's a very popular reality show. Now, don't you're gonna judge me that I know what this show is, but I find it a fascinating study in human nature. A lot of reality shows, some of them can be. It's called The Circle, and it's this popular online popularity game. The winner gets $100,000, and it's funny because I find it to be like a microcosm of what some people view life to be. There's some people who play the game with their heart. Even though there's $100,000 on the line, they can't help but play with their heart, and they play truthfully. And there's other people who play the game with their head, and they go in saying, "This is a game. I'm gonna lie if I need to. I'm gonna backstab people if I need to," And it's so interesting because I do watch some of this show, and I always want the ones who are playing with their heart to win. Like, I don't want it to be true that that the ones who are playing with their head and just strategy and just willing to do anything, I don't want them to win. I think because it's a metaphor for life to me. And so I was looking at these dumbasses, I'm sorry for my language, but these people on the city council, and I'm just like, these are people who, instead of going on a game show like The Circle, which is what they should have done, they decided to play The Circle in real life. What they won was being on the city council. A lot of them lied and maneuvered and said whatever they need to say and used charisma to get elected. They don't give a shit about what their job description is. Again, this is all influenced by also watching the John Adams docuseries and just having that role model in mind, and then looking at these, they're not even fit to be used car salesmen. I mean, I don't even know what I would call, they're just clowns. They're circus performers. I have no respect for them. None. Respect is earned. So that's a lot of buildup about what it was like being there. But I guess one takeaway from that is, if you get nervous, if you decide you want to speak at a city council meeting and you're nervous about if you would all have imposter syndrome, is what they call it, where you feel like you don't deserve to be there, or you don't deserve to speak, or you're not smart enough, or you're not qualified enough, or you're not, prestigious enough, or whatever those fears are that are Satan in your ear talking to you. Just remember, you're talking to clowns. You're talking to clowns. The goal, as I see it, is forget the clowns. I already knew how Austin was gonna vote, that they were gonna vote shamefully. But they record these city council meetings, and so I want what I'm saying to be heard by people beyond these 4 walls that I'm in, and I wanna speak to those people. And that's one of the rules on my list. We're gonna go through it, or the advice tips. I'd say 10 tips for public speaking. One is know who your audience is and speak to them. So my audience is people on the fence, or people who are woke but who are open-minded. That's who I want to hear what I'm saying and think about it. And you can use a city council meeting to do that, even if you know it's gonna go the other way. What what's a good reason to speak if you like at this time, even if you think it's gonna go the wrong way? Because we are living in the middle of an upside down world. Things are crazier and more perverse now than I think any of us have ever imagined we would see in our lifetime. We are living through a cultural subversion where everything that's dark is being put up high and everything that's light is being put down low. Everything is upside down. What's good is bad, what's bad is good, what's beautiful is ugly, what's ugly is beautiful. We're being lied to on a massive level. We're witnessing projection, cluster B like projection on a massive scale. Just like those city council members in there yesterday, turning everything upside down and trying to say our side was the aggressive ones when it was the other side being aggressive and yelling and hissing and calling us names. I That's what we're witnessing on a mass scale. So we're living in crazy times. It's more important than ever to speak truth, real truth, not this social justice, moral relativism, your truth and my truth and his truth and their truth. And no, no. I believe in absolute truth. Anyone who says absolute truth doesn't exist is either a crazy person or they're intentionally deceitful. It's important to speak truth. And so, even if the odds are stacked against you in the venue you're speaking in, you can be confident, you can speak boldly, you can be confident that your words are backed by truth. And if you're a Christian, that you're there speaking words that God wants you to speak. If you're a Christian, you can pray beforehand, let me say words that are pleasing to you. Take my ego out of it, take my fears and anxieties and all that out of it, and just let me say truthful things. And that can put your heart at ease no matter what the odds are. So let's look at, well, first of all, I got to meet some cool people yesterday. I told you Michelle Evans was there. Also, I got to meet Mercedes Chandler from Gays Against Groomers, who she is just a delight. And she did a great speech. There were several people I got to meet who did great speeches. And this is a picture of us out front before we went inside. It's so funny because there were people like Mercedes from the so-called LGBTQ community, right? Who were there to speak. And there were also people who are detransitioners who were trans and then detrans who were there to speak and talk about what happened to their bodies. And they were completely ignored by the other side and by the city council members who spoke. The other side, the woke and the city council members like to pretend, and they did pretend, that there is one LGBTQ voice, and that voice is for sterilizing and mutilating kids. And they repeatedly made it known that that's all the LGBTQ they will listen to is whatever agrees with them. Liars. Liars. And the bravery of people who got up there and spoke, who in some cases there were a couple people who spoke who had detransitioned. The bravery to get up there and speak is just inspiring. And it's also so shameful that they are ignored in the very same meeting they spoke in. Then you would have people on the other side get up and speak and say that there are no there are no surgeries happening on minors. They're just complete lies. It's like, hello, there are two people here speaking who's just told you what happened to them. Look up Chloe Cole, look up Lola Jane. You're lying, but they didn't care. It's kind of crazy. Okay, this was my speech. This is the clean version. Okay, let's go. Good afternoon. My name is Keri Smith, and I live in the great state of Texas. One of the purposes of law is to protect the most vulnerable among us from harm. As a society, we have always recognized that children are not developmentally the same as adults. As such, our laws do not allow children to consent to sex with adults, to drinking, to smoking, to getting a tattoo, to driving a car or buying a gun. But somehow in the past few years, we have all collectively lost our minds and decided that children are capable of consenting to sterilizing themselves for life and to having their breasts and genitals cut off and mutilated. I encourage you to read and listen to all of the leaked WPATH files, where the very doctors who are chemically castrating and genitally mutilating children are caught on video admitting that these children are not capable of understanding what they are consenting to. The president of WPATH, Marcy Bowers, is even on video admitting that 100% of little boys in Tanner stage 2, that's around age 11, who they've given puberty blockers to, are never able to achieve orgasm in adulthood. That's 100%. You can watch her say this on camera. Chemically castrating puberty blockers are not reversible.
I encourage you to listen to the voices of the mutilated children, some of whom were here today, voices of people like Chloe Cole and Layla Jane, both who had double mastectomies when they were children, who are now in young adulthood suing the butchers who did this to them when they were kids. Every single country that has done a systematic medical review of the evidence has banned this barbarism against children. And we're going to follow in the footsteps of progressive countries like the UK, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. And we're going to ban it in all 50 states here in the US. The Hippocratic Oath for doctors says to first do no harm. It is a lie that sterilizing and mutilating children does no harm. In the words of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, let the lie come into the world, let it even prosper, but not through me. I urge the Austin City Council not to be on the wrong side of history on this, the greatest medical scandal and atrocity against children in our lifetime. Let the lie come into the world, let it even prosper, but not through Texas. Thank you.
Okay. That was my speech. You can hear I'm breathing heavily at the end. I was nervous. I was breathing hard. It's okay. If that's the worst that happens, it's okay. Oh, thank you, Pirate. Yes, I uploaded that clip this morning. If you like that speech, please share it. I think hopefully it will inspire more people to speak. And if they want to borrow notes from it, great, do it. I think now, like I said, not everyone has the same path or the same talents or skill or interest or compulsion, and so not everyone's going to get up at a city council meeting. But I do think if you're so inclined, these are the times to do it. Someone asked me before I went in, why are you here? Are you with such and such group or something? I was like, no, I'm just a lady. I'm just a lady. And I don't even get to the end of my life and think, well, I was too afraid to say anything about that awful period of history that we went through. You know, I want to be able to say, you darn right I got out there and said something. And so if you feel that way, I'm encouraging you that you can do this. Okay, here are some tips. Now, maybe some of you don't even need these tips. Maybe you're you're great at public speaking. Maybe you're better than I am. In which case, leave us some advice, please, in the chat, and I'll read it. And I've got my list though that I'm going to go through. Thank you, first of all, to Deranged Lunatic, aka DL, for $4.99. Says the Bible said there would be a day where evil is called good and good is called evil. It did. Isaiah. And woe to him who does that. And there's a lot of people doing that today, right? Up is down, down is up, sour is sweet, sweet is sour. Thank you to your average patriot nerd. Hey, good to see you, who gifted 5 Deprogrammed memberships. Snatch those up. And then I just want to say a word about this. Hey, Broken Umbrella said hissing. And Stephen Mack also said, tolerant hissing. Yes. This is not my first time witnessing this. The leftists, the woke mob, the ones who are so into it that they go out in public and protest and come and speak at things like this, and not just speaking, cool, fine, but they're there to try and disrupt the city council meeting as much as they can and scream and yell and stuff like that. These people, they behave as if they're demon possessed, and I've encountered this more than once. I encountered this a year or two ago when I did the Women Leaving the Left event with Michelle Evans, Megan Murphy, Mary Lou Singleton, and Isabella Malbin. We are at the Austin Public Library. There's video of that here on Deprogrammed if you want to see the video of the mob. They showed up, they banged on all the windows and doors. They took photos and yelled taunts at ticket buyers who were coming inside, tried to intimidate them, threatening them, saying they were going to put their pictures on sites, calling them white supremacists and crazy stuff. They were like zombies. And they were banging on the glass windows the entire panel to try and make it hard to hear us inside so that ticket buyers would have a hard time hearing us. And before we started, I went outside and was sitting there and I got a couple videos because it bothered me that they were trying to intimidate folks who were just coming in who had bought tickets to hear us speak. And so I was sitting out there just recording them, and of course, they try and stop you from recording them, which doesn't make any sense, which I said to them, "It doesn't make any sense. You're here to be seen. You have signs, you have noisemakers, you're here to be seen, but you don't wanna be seen on camera, like, make it make sense." But they were saying stuff to me that was just utterly demonic, like possession. It's crazy. They noticed that I was wearing a crucifix, and they 2 of them, and they just started speaking in these weird sing-song voices, calling me little girl and, "Ooh, I see your crucifix, little girl." Like, this just so demonic, trying to scare me or something, but it's truly like it's truly like they're possessed. And so these people yesterday were no different. Let me tell you when the hissing happened. An older woman got up to speak, completely humble, non-aggressive, not forceful. She used her 2 minutes to read from scripture. She read directly from the Bible. That's the biggest hissing. They can't stand hearing the Bible read. They physically recoil and hiss and mock and try and like do these demonic kind of laugh. Like not a joyful laugh, but a demonic, hateful laugh. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's sort of faked and hateful. And I just thought, how amazing, because if the Bible, if the word of God held no power, if they would be truly apathetic about it, like, oh, whatever, you know. We sit there and listen to them speak their woke religious nonsense and platitudes, and nobody feels the need to physically recoil and hiss because it doesn't hold any power. It's a bunch of nonsense. But they hear the word of God and they can't control themselves, which is pretty amazing. It's fascinating to watch. It provokes them. It's like they can't stop themselves from hissing. They were hissing like serpents at the word of God. Pretty crazy. Um, Pirate says, my version of hissing is rolling my eyes. Let me tell you, I will consciously hiss sometimes. That's because I lived in LA for a while. And at some of the movie theaters there, we get really into movies in LA. And, you know, if it's a good film, we clap at the end. And if it's a terrible film, we hiss. That maybe this is just the movie theater I went to. So that's how, I mean, that's what I do. So I'm here in Texas. I guess people don't do that as often, but sometimes I do it anyway, even if I'm the only one. Like I just saw Cabrini and I'm like, when it's over and nobody else claps, that's okay. But sometimes I get everybody else to clap because one person doing it, then everybody's like slowly like clapping at the movie, which is good. I think it's good. And if it's a bad movie, oh yeah, at the end you're like, like, that was awful. I can't believe I spent money on that. Okay. Okay, let's get into this list. Um, one last thing. Two last things. Pirate Tomsky says Miss Smith goes to Austin. What very clever, sir. Thank you for that. Very clever. And In Bingy says, I need to learn more about this Darvo stuff. Yeah, look up Darvo. It stands for deny and reverse victim offender. And it's a lot of people with cluster B personality disorder. So that would be, you know, sociopathic people, people with borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and histrionic personality disorder. A lot of them engage in Darvo. That's where they accuse their victim or their target of the thing that they're doing to the victim. They reverse it. And we see that in politics now all the time. A great example would be when Justin Trudeau and his authoritarian government trying to force people, authoritarian, it means something, right? They're trying to force people to have to take a vax. It's pretty authoritarian for the government to decide what you have to do with your body. And then what did Justin Trudeau do? He called the Freedom Convoy, who were fighting for medical freedom, individual choices. He called them authoritarians. And it's like, what? But it's a tactic. It's what sociopaths do. It's what psychopaths do. So yeah, look it up because it might, it for me, understanding when individuals do it toxic, disturbing, dark individuals. Understanding when and how they use it helped me to better understand what I was seeing on a national level, on a world level. Savrix for $1.99. Thanks for supporting the show. Says he hissed hello today. Thank you. Hissing. It's crazy. Okay. Here's my list. So, and you guys feel free to add to this. This is advice, the best I can do for if you want to get better at speaking in public. And like I said at the beginning, if I can do it, you can do it. It still terrifies me. I'll tell you where I'm at right now. As far as doing podcasts, I don't get as nervous anymore because I've been doing them for so many years, since like 2018, and I've done so many of them. It doesn't have the same effect on me, which is great. It's a great example of how you can get over your fear of something the more you practice it. At the beginning, I had so much fear just doing this. And I also had fear within the past year when I started hosting episodes by myself without a guest to speak with. And I wanted to get better at that. It's terrified me. So that's why I started doing it. And when it comes to public speaking, I'd say yes, every opportunity I get to speak at a conference, because I want to get better at that. And I still have a lot of fear. It is, I am getting better at it the more I do it. There's less fear each time, but I still have a lot of fear compared to this because I don't do it as often. So I want that practice. So you're going to have to, if you want to get better at this, find ways to practice. There's lots of ways to do that. You can go to school board meetings, you can go to city council meetings, you can practice that way. You can practice, if that's too daunting for you, you can practice explaining your beliefs to a friend or family member on a subject maybe that they disagree with you on. So here's my list. So number 1, say what you know. If you're writing a speech for something like this, say what you know. And if you can, say it in your own words. I say this because it's going to be more authentic if you're speaking from the heart and it's coming from you. Say it in your own words. It doesn't have to be, don't overthink it. If you sit down and you say, I've got to write the best speech ever and it's got to sound so smart and be full of facts, like, then you're putting too much pressure on yourself and you're not going to write anything. So just sit down and stream of consciousness, write down what you're going to say or what you would like to say, and have it come from the heart. Because once you get that out, you're going to feel good about it because it flowed out of you. Then you can go back and add in, if you want to add in stats or quotes or anything, you can do that afterwards. But sit down and don't overthink it. Just write authentically what you want to say. A lot of people who spoke yesterday, for example, were speaking about their personal experience. That's the most important thing they could do and to say. So important to be there saying, hey, I'm a living, breathing example of what we're talking about today. I went through transition. Here's what I have to say about it. You know, if you've got that personal experience with the subject, that's better even. Speak to that, because that's a unique part of your background that's going to help you reach people. So say what you know in your own words. It's better to speak from the heart because it's going to be authentic, and that's going to be better. Number 2, write it all out and then practice reading it to yourself. Like, read it out loud or read it to a friend or a spouse. But you have to practice it out loud. You can't just write it on the page and then get up there and the first time you've said it is at the microphone. Because sometimes you'll find when you're saying things out loud, they read differently than they do on the written page. And so you'll reword things because you'll say, oh, that didn't come out quite right. Let me rephrase it this way. So read it out loud a couple times. Be confident and bold. I already talked about this a little bit, but be confident that if you're speaking truth, not just opinion, you can do a mix of both. But if you're speaking truth, like, you're speaking truth, be confident. And just the fact that you're up there trying to do this is admirable. And again, if you're in a room full of, if you're nervous or you're not feeling very confident because it's your first time or something, just keep reminding yourself, that these are clowns on the city council. Like, not in a kind of a hateful way. I know how could you say that, Carrie, to not be hateful? I'm just saying to remind yourself that, like, hey, maybe they're not worth all that crazy high level of respect I'm giving them in my head that's making me so nervous. Um, so be confident and bold. There's a excuse my language. I have to use it though because this is the quote. When I worked in comedy in my old life, one of the comedians I managed, she was a little person, a comedian, and burlesque star, and she was hilarious, and she was a big personality, and she used to, before every show, I don't know if this is true or not, but she told me she heard that this is something Judy Garland used to do before going on stage because of stage fright, and so she would do this too before opening the curtain and going out. She would say she would say, "Fuck 'em, fuck 'em, fuck 'em, fuck 'em," and then she would just go on stage. And it was always so funny seeing that come from this beautiful little person, this adorable soul, and she would just say that, and I also imagine Judy Garland saying that. It made me laugh. You don't have to curse, but come up with something that makes you be like, "You know what? Who cares what they think? Who cares what they think?" Or if I'm nervous or if my face shakes because 'cause I'm so nervous, like, it doesn't who cares what they think? Pirate says, "I say that before I have to mod chat." Eh, you're funny. Okay, be confident and bold. Um, prayer. Now, if you're not a Christian, I don't I don't know if this will help you, but maybe there's something similar you could do if prayer doesn't feel authentic to you. You could try praying even if you're not a believer yet. You could. I'm just saying, what could it hurt? But if you don't want to pray, maybe you could do some kind of meditation or repeating certain mantras to yourself. But prayer has helped me so much with with everything that scares me. And it's not lip service. This is real. I will pray beforehand. Th- Think about what's behind your fear. Sometimes some of your fear of public speaking is rooted in ego. It is. It may not feel like it, but it is because your ego says, "Oh, I'm concerned with getting it right or perfect or sounding smart or being funny or whatever it is that you want to be." And you're too concerned with yourself. And your ego says, "Oh no, what will people think of me?" And your ego says, "Oh no, what if I trip and fall and embarrass myself or I speak and my mouth shakes and my hands shake and I'm clearly nervous." Who cares? It's all ego. Oh, that's ego. So the whole first year on my old channel that I did a podcast and started in 2018, and for over a year, my prayer before every show, my prayers have changed a little now, the ones I do before the show, but at the time, my prayer before each show was just kill my ego and help me to say words that are pleasing to you. And that man, God found some really painful ways to kill my ego. Don't say prayers unless you really mean them. Because it might hurt. You might get like it's the God doesn't always answer prayers in my experience in like the very pleasant way you would hope. Because thing you have to learn, you have to grow. It's painful killing ego, of course. I didn't know that, but yeah, I learned it. Okay, so so that prayer, take it if it works for you. Try that prayer because it takes some of the weight up. Now, I've had atheists tell me, "Well, Carrie, they don't believe, so they say, well, that prayer works because psychologically you're saying, you know, the pressure's not on me to get it perfect. That you're putting the pressure on God." So, and I'm like, well, maybe, maybe I actually think God's doing something for me. But even if you're a non-believer and you think that that kind of prayer only works for psychological reasons, like you're kind of tricking yourself or something, if it works and you're an atheist who's afraid of public speaking, why not try it? So prayer. Yesterday, because I knew there were going to be a lot of just dark spiritual energy there, and just like I said, the people who would hiss at Bible verses and that kind of stuff. I took a little book. I found this book in a vintage bookstore last week, of a little book of just Psalms and Proverbs. And so it's a little pocket thing you can take with you. And I just was reading that all during other people's, like, when the demons were speaking, I was like, I can't. I'm not gonna let that rile me or get, so I was just reading Psalms and Proverbs. And I met some Christians there. I met a preacher on the elevator. Like, all of this was, I was like, of course, the first person I meet here is a pastor. And there were people on either side of me who had brought prayers, and I could see them praying quietly to themselves, and it helped me. So do that. Who cares what other people think? Number 6, I have breathe deep. So my husband texted me yesterday and said, "Hey, don't forget to breathe deep 1 or 2 times before you go up there at least." When we were in Amsterdam last year, we met this really cool, uh, based progressive, but based and awake yoga teacher, and we did a yoga class there, and he was talking about breath. And I've had other people talk to me about this since, in the years since, so obviously it's something I need to pay attention to. But here's a little trick he was saying. In yoga classes, when they have you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and sometimes they have you count, but you don't really have to count. The purpose of the counting is to make sure that your breathing out is a few seconds longer than you're breathing in, because it signals to your body that you're relaxing. And so a trick, if you're ever feeling anxiety and your heart's racing and you're nervous or you're short of breath, you can trick your body. You can physically trick your body to respond and to lower your own heart rate with your breath. And you can breathe in through your nose for a couple seconds and breathe out through your mouth for a couple seconds longer than that. And so right before I went up, when they called my name and 2 other people's names, so I'm waiting, my heart rate's increasing. I'm getting more nervous now because I'm gonna go up there and do this. And so I just sat there and was breathing. And this is a great tip, practical tip to try this. Next time you get nervous about anything, doesn't even have to be public speaking. Try lowering your own heart rate with your breath. Dion says, I can lower my blood pressure just by deep breathing and visualizing being on a dive. I believe it. Pepina, do based yoga teachers exist? At least one. I'm sure there's more, but I met one. A lot of the based people I met in Amsterdam are kind of, I would say, lefties, but not leftists. They're not woke. COVID policy is what woke a lot of them up, and what's happening to the farmers there. You can be based on the left or the right. It just means awake. I think the whole left right thing it's not that important anymore. It's just, are you based in reality or are you not? Let's see if there's some more. Pirate, thank God for making me an atheist. Hey, but you have to thank God. So Russ Williams says that works with more than just breathing. Smiling when talking on the phone changes your voice, and even forcing your mouth into a smile, like biting a pencil, improves your mood. I didn't know that. Pepina, thanks for becoming a new member of the channel. I wonder if that's your cat's name. I see your cat avatar there. I see your question, by the way. A couple people asked questions. I'll get to those in just a second. Almost done with this list. Okay, number 7. Don't worry about memorizing your speech. If it's for a city council or school board or something, some people, I know, they're like, oh, I've got to memorize all this so I feel very comfortable. I don't. Everybody, some people read off their phones. I like to bring a notebook or note cards, and it's fine to have that. And you should be comfortable. I read it a few times out loud, so at least some of it sticks, so I'm comfortable with the flow of it. You don't need to memorize all of it. Number 8 relates to this. Look at people. So if you are reading it, though, you don't want to be stuck down in your notes the whole time, never looking up. And if you're nervous, you might be tempted to do that. I was tempted to do that the first time I was ever saying anything in public. I did not want to look at the people. But if you want the people in the room to connect with what you're saying, to hear what you're saying, you should look at them. You should force yourself at little breaks when you're catching your breath and little breaks in the paragraph or whatever. You should look up at people, try to make eye contact with them. They may not look at you. If the city council, for example, they didn't want to look at us. 2 of them kept getting up and going to the bathroom whenever one of us spoke against the resolution. But try to make eye contact with them once in a while. Don't stay stuck in your paper. Number 9, know who your audience is and speak to them. And if you can, use phrases that you know they use or that they will hear. So one of the things I said in that speech was Austin, I urged Austin City Council not to be on the wrong side of history. And someone commented online and they said, well, you shouldn't say that because, that's a phrase they use. And what if history doesn't go the way we want? What if we don't ban this practice and da, 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 da. I understand that point. I understand what's wrong with that sentence. However, they use that sentence all the time. The woke do. And I purposefully picked 3 phrases that they use a lot. I mentioned at the beginning about protecting the most vulnerable among us because they're always from harm, because they're always talking about harm and protecting the vulnerable. They're always talking about it. I'm using their own language. There was another example of a piece. Oh, listen to the voices of. They're always talking about being quiet and listen to the voices of. So I said that twice. Listen to the voices of, and then that phrase being on the wrong side of history, because those are phrases that the woke use, and that's my audience. It wasn't the city council, not really, because I knew how their vote was going to go. I mean, I wanted them to hear me, but beyond that, my main audience is anyone who might see the video afterwards who's woke or who's maybe only woke adjacent or who's maybe on the fence or maybe they haven't thought about this issue before. I wanted to hit all the important points that might make them read things they may not know about the progressive countries that have banned sterilizing and mutilating children. I wanted them to know these are progressive countries that have done this because a lot of them don't know that. They don't know about how puberty blockers chemically castrate young boys. They don't know the president of WPATH is on video saying that. So I wanted to get those important things in there and to make them more inclined to hear what I'm saying, to also use the kinds of persuasive phrases that they use, using their own words. So know your audience and speak to them. Number 10, I put, nothing distracting. So, I love, I just did my last episode of Deprogrammed was about the ways in which we dress and how that it can affect our mood and our performance and others' perception of us. And so, I mean, I like to wear things that make me happy. I love hats. I like cowboy boots, but somebody asked me why I didn't wear a hat. I don't usually wear hats at city council meetings. I spoke at a Georgetown one also. Maybe one day that'll change, but right now I'm still nervous enough about it that I want them to hear what I'm saying, and I don't want to be distracting. And I've had enough people tell me that my hats are distracting. Now for a podcast, I don't care because this is my channel. I'm going to wear what I want. And if you enjoy what I have to say or enjoy the guests I have or the episodes I'm making, you'll get used to the hat. Okay. It's just a hat. Get over it. I feel like this is my virtual domain, my virtual home. I'm going to wear what I want here. But when I am out, if it's something very, very important, like this subject about trans and kids, I don't want any possibility of some percentage, even if it's a small percentage of the audience being distracted and not being able to hear what I'm saying because they're sitting there the whole time going, look at that hat. So, so I would say don't wear anything that's super distracting if it's a very important and serious topic and if you're already nervous. And that would be a good bit of advice. Now, if your goal is to be a troll and to be funny, there was a comedian there yesterday who was dressed like the wokest woke trans woman, and Alex Stranger, he's a troll comedian. He's hilarious. He goes to city council meetings. I believed him. Let me see if I can show you a picture of him. But his goal is to be just, I mean, he's going to wear crazy stuff because he's in character. And what he's trying to do is he's using a different tool than I am. I'm there to try and speak truth boldly. He's there to try and highlight truth humorously through comedy. And so that's going to be a little different here. Let me show you, let me show you a picture of him. Oh man. When he first sat down beside me, he said something like, "I know you," or at first I was like, "I don't mind if this person on the other side sits next to me." I even kind of gestured at the seat when he was looking at it. But then when he sat down, he started trying to talk to me, and I was thinking, "Oh no." He goes, "I know you," and I said, "No, you don't." And I got up and moved. And I was thinking he must be one of those protesters from the Austin library event who remembers me and is trying to start some crap or intimidate me by sitting next to me with all these empty chairs. And lo and behold, I found out he's a comedian. I didn't recognize him because he's in character. Look at this. And uh he's so convincing. And there were even people there, real people on the other side who did look like this. Okay, he's not exaggerating. So how was I to know? Look at his mask. It's like the rainbow flag on one side and the trans flag on the other with the black power fist in the middle. And he's got rainbow colored hair and he was wearing this little short mini skirt. And he he got up. He got up and after I apologized to him during the break because I was like, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I thought you were crazy. I thought you were a crazy person. You look like what you're pulling it off, right? And anyway, when it was his turn to speak, he got up and did, I'm a woman and I'm here to demand. He was hilarious. He was all satire and good for him, Alex Stranger. Okay. Savrix, thank you for the super chat for $9.99. Savrix says, Keri, you appear calm and cool with communicating publicly. Thank you. It's taken me a lot of practice, and I am not entirely calm and cool. That's also taken practice to to be trembling all the time. So practice. I'm telling everyone, practice if you want to do this. Practice. Okay. By the way, when did you realize the reactions on the left were more evil than compassionate? Well, I've told this story a few times. If you want to hear the long version, probably two of the best interviews I've done, I think, that go through the whole story. One was on trigonometry. You can find that one, and one was with Peter Boghossian. That one's more recent. So that's if you want the long version, but the short version is that in 2016 and 17, starting in 2016, I started to see a lot of craziness in my social justice cult, and I had really whittled my world down. Like I was in a true echo chamber. I was pushing social justice through my work, through the TV shows that I was producing. I had all of my friends, all of my social circle was social justice and woke. I unfriended people who were conservative or who weren't woke, and I had whittled my world down. And I never I never listened to the opinions of people on the right at all. I was told what to believe about those opinions, and I let that manipulation work on me. It's amazing how many people on the left, if you ask them, they can have very strong opinions about something that they don't even realize. They don't realize these are not their opinions. They haven't thought about it consciously. They don't realize these are received opinions. They're told what to think. So they'll go off about someone, pick someone, Matt Walsh. They'll go off about Matt Walsh, and then you ask them, well, which video of his did you watch? And they'll be like, well, I haven't actually watched it. They read something that told them what to think about a thing that they never watched. It's the same thing with books. It's the same thing with the scientific reports. When the WPATH files came out, I had people telling me, I'm not going to read it. Why? If your opinions are so strong, read it. You're an adult. Trust yourself enough. But they read opinion pieces that tell them what to think about. That's what I did. So I was in that echo chamber for 20 years. It kept getting more and smaller. And in terms of the wokest of the woke and the more radical, I guess I would say. And in 2016, there had been some little moments of cognitive dissonance for me where I didn't agree with something that was happening in my woke world, but I was too afraid to say something. There were a couple of those over the years when they piled on different people that I didn't agree with, but I was a coward and didn't say anything. There were every once in a while there was something I didn't agree with. But it didn't all culminate until 2016. And it was during the presidential election, and it started when I went down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos. This is back when the algorithm would recommend related videos. Now that they've messed with the algorithm to purposefully make it recommend authoritative sources, so you see fewer of the things that you're actually interested in because it just feeds you CNN crap. Here's another CNN video. Here's another Fox News video. I don't want to see these mainstream news sources, YouTube, but that's what they do now. Anyway, back then in 2016, I saw videos of leftist people who are supposedly on my side attacking Trump supporters. And I had never seen these before. And it kept recommending one after the other. People, mobs of people on my side chasing Trump supporters down after they were coming out of Trump speeches, like going to the Trump speech on purpose to assault people, throwing bricks at them, throwing eggs at them, cornering them, bloodying them. And it left me an emotional wreck because I didn't see myself in my people. I just was like, no, this is not us. And at the time, I was thinking this is like a bug. This isn't part of the code, right, of this belief system. This is a bug. But it's not. It is part of the code. It is a feature. And at the time, it just made me think about a lot of things. And I actually went and purposely looked for the opposite kind of videos. I'm like, because I had been thinking based on stuff I was reading and my received opinions that Trump supporters were violent and they were attacking Clinton supporters. And I had read stuff that had told me this. And I started trying to find those videos and I couldn't find them. And I'm like, wait a minute, it seems kind of one-sided and not the direction I thought it was going in. And that just caused a crack in the foundation of my beliefs because at that point it was like, I didn't know if I really understood what was happening in the world. But of course, this takes time. It wasn't like overnight. I'm like changing my worldview. I didn't change my worldview overnight. It just made me start questioning things and looking with a more skeptical eye at my side. And pretty soon after that was another big crack in the foundation. And that was when the Black Lives Matter rally in Dallas, where a sniper killed several police officers. And the people in my social justice woke echo chamber were tacitly supporting it. On the one hand, they were trying to make public statements saying it had nothing to do with Black Lives Matter or BLM, which is where it happened. But then privately on Facebook, they were saying things like, well, some old white men are going to have to die in the revolution. Like they were kind of laughing about it, but saying these things that really just that I was thinking no murder. What? I thought we were liberals. Suddenly it's like people are tacitly okay with murder. And then after Trump won, I saw my side just go crazy. I saw my side justifying physical violence, punch a Nazi, except they were defining, again, they were playing with words and definitions. They were defining all Trump voters as Nazis. so they could justify physical violence against them. Just disgusting. I saw censorship. I saw all these things that I was grappling with, like, wait a minute, guys. At first, I wasn't trying to leave woke. I really thought these were bugs. I thought we were losing our way. And so I was trying to be like, hey guys, I started doing some posts that were, we shouldn't be. There were essays coming out at that time, tons of them in the social justice world, that were saying things like why you should not have empathy for Trump voters. It was like arguing against empathy. Like, what? We're liberals. And they were arguing for censorship. I saw people that I thought were liberals like me passing around petitions when Alex Jones got banned from all platforms except Twitter. This is before he also got banned from Twitter, but at that point he was banned from everywhere except Twitter. And I had a friend of mine who thought of himself as a liberal send me a petition to sign to get Alex Jones also kicked off of Twitter. I'm like, wait, dude, I thought you were a liberal. Like, and he had a conversation with me about it on Facebook Messenger. He was like, well, he's trying to explain it and justify it to himself about why this wasn't supporting censorship. And it was fascinating to me. Everything slowly over like a year just started all the programming started to get washed away. And I started to actually try and figure out what I thought about things from the ground up. Because the whole foundation of my house had been razed to the ground. My house of belief gone. And that's the short version. Okay, I'll stop. But you can watch the full story. Like I said, the trigonometry interview from a few years ago that I did, or more recently, the interview I did with Peter Boghossian. Thank you for that. Thanks for the super chat. Let me see. Maliki King says, John, 100% brother, I'll do my part and stand tall on the hill. I stand with the creator and all things good. I fear not the evil world and its minions. I love that. I wanted to read that because I love that. Dion says, I'm fine if I'm teaching something to a group of people or talking to several people around a table, but standing up and being the single focal point sucks. I completely get you, honey. We are the same. So my whole point is because I'm like that. You guys should know I'm like that. Public speaking is one of the things that scares me most. And I have slowly been conquering that fear the more that I do it. And you can do that too if you want to. I'll tell you one time, I just moderated a panel at the Minds Fest at the Vulcan. Gosh, it wasn't even a week ago yet. It seems like so long ago now. And the first time I started doing that, panels and stuff like that, was I did a few for Myth Informed. And I remember the second or third one of these conferences I went to. So I'd already done a few of them. And I'd also done some speaking engagements here in Texas. I had a young women's Republican club that brought me out to speak. I had spoken at a couple of other, I spoke at some stupid libertarian festival. Sorry, libertarians. But I said yes. And at the time I was considering libertarianism. So that was great practice to do a speech there. And I'm actually, I'm glad I went, but, I had done a few speeches and things like that, but being at this conference, it was only the second or third one I had done. And you would think by then, oh, you're getting more comfortable with it. But I still had these fears. You should know this. At this particular one, they had someone else hosting, and I was moderating a couple of the panels. And so after the host introduces the whole panel and the moderator, myself, then he leaves. And then it's my turn to start the panel, to introduce the subject and to ask a question, the first question. Right before, at the very beginning, that's when you're going to have the most stage fright, probably, if you have stage fright. Once you get going, it goes away slowly. And you just have to remind yourself that once I get going, it'll be gone. But no matter what happens, just power through it. So as I'm sitting there, it's my turn to say the first thing I'm supposed to say. And my internal fight or flight was going off. I was terrified. And it was saying, I'm not exaggerating. It was like, get up and run off the stage. It said, get up and run off the stage. That would be better than what's about to happen. That's what my brain said to me. I really had to fight that impulse to get up and run off the stage. Can you imagine? But that's what my body was saying. It was like, "Oh no. Let's get out of here before you do something embarrassing." I'm sorry. I'm coughing. I'm saying this so you know you're not alone. And I didn't though. I did not get up and run off the stage. I just kind of like powered through and set up my and I was probably trembling. I don't remember. I was probably trembling while I read the first note card that I had written with the things I wanted to say and ask. And then again, once I got into it, it was fine. But at that beginning part, man, it's like something you just have to power through. You'll be fine. Don't listen to that crazy fight or flight that says run away. Yeah, I'm sorry, Natalie's laughing in the chat. It's making me laugh. Yeah, seriously. And there were people on that panel, like Jack Posobiec was on that panel, and gosh, I'm trying to remember Sydney Watson, maybe Libby Evans. I can't remember all the people on that panel, but my brain, my crazy brain was so fight or flight in that moment. It thought it would be better for me and Keri Smith, the moderator, for me to stand up and be like, and just leave. Go off to the side and say, I can't do this. I didn't do that. Don't do that. Don't listen to that voice. It was wrong. It was better to sit there and tremble and be nervous at the beginning than to run off the stage. Okay. And after you're done with it, here's the thing. You feel so glad that you did it. It's like going to the gym. You don't want to go to the gym, maybe. You don't want to, you're like, I've got things I got to do, and I hate this thing about the gym or that thing, and and the physical strain, it's changing you. It's something that's changing you. It's hard because almost all good things are hard. It's hard going to the gym, but once you're done, don't you feel that sense of accomplishment? You did it. You went. You did it. You grew a little. You changed a little. And it's like that with public speaking. If you may not want to go, it's scary, it's terrifying. Why am I doing this? You're questioning why you said yes right before you go on. And then once you do it, you feel that sense of accomplishment. You changed a little, you grew a little, you did something hard, something good and hard. Natalie, exactly. Don't listen to that voice. Natalie from Force of Light Entertainment. Thanks for being here. Natalie is a gem, says D Sub. Yes, she is. Texas Sheep Lady says, when you recognize the creator of the universe has your back, what's to fear? Yes. If you are a Christian, this is something you can remind yourself. Thank you for saying this, Texas Sheep Lady. I remind myself this when I'm totally afraid, is just God's with me. God's guide me no matter what happens, no matter if I faint on the stage. It's okay. You're going to be fine. This isn't that big of a deal. Just do it. Pirate Tomsky, thank you for the super chat from the mod. Pirate Tomsky for 10 pounds says people's number one fear is public speaking. Number 2 is death. Does that sound right to the average person? If you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. It's a Jerry Seinfeld quote. Pretty funny. Thank you for sharing that. I've actually have heard that quote of his before. It's been a long time. That's so funny. Thank you, Pirate. Okay. I think I've covered all the bits of advice I had. And I think if there's anybody else has a bit of advice, maybe you're even maybe this is not even a fear for you. And so if you have some wisdom to impart, please drop it in the chat. We'll share it with everyone. But I think if you have that compulsion to speak truth in these crazy times we're living in, do it. Do it. You're not going to regret doing it. You're not. And the fear is real. You work through the fear. It's not like you don't have it. You have the fear, you work through it, and you do it anyway. And whatever the venue is, it doesn't all have to be the same venue. You don't have to go out tomorrow and find a meeting to speak at. You can, but it could be something for you. Maybe it's daunting to have a conversation with a friend or family member who has different opinions than you. Maybe they're completely upside down and backwards and saying crazy stuff, but you're afraid to say anything. You could start there. You could start small and be confident in what you're saying. You don't have to say it with emotion. If they say it with emotion and anger, in fact, that's a great test. That's also great practice. That's great practice for you to be able to respond without them bringing you up to that same emotion that they're at. That's great practice. That's spiritual judo. It's exercise. It's an exercise to practice that. So if they get emotional and angry, you can practice staying calm, which we all need practice on repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. It's not like you learn how to do that once and then you're great at it. You have to keep practicing it. Oh, this is great. This should have been on my list. Thank you, Sandman, for adding this. Sandman says, always remember to slow down when giving a speech. People tend to rush. This is true. Slow your speech down. Don't speak. You may think you're not speaking fast, but I promise you're speaking faster than you think. That goes to the Brigham Young quote about taking offense from a few minutes back. I'm not sure. Hey, XRL7 is here. What's up? Spiritual Judo. I like that. You guys should know, if you haven't checked out this animated series, go right now on YouTube. Check it out. You're going to laugh. I've done an interview with Michael before, and it's here on the channel. You can find it in the Deprogrammed interviews section. And he's the one, you should know, he's the one that put me in touch with Brian Grappner, the just really based industrial goth humorous musician who got canceled recently and decided he's not getting canceled and put out a new album under a new name. That interview came out last week. Please go watch that if you haven't seen it yet. That guy is just inspiring. And thank you for putting me in touch with him. Good to see you here. Okay. I think I'm going to wrap this up unless you guys have any questions that you want me to answer. Throw them up there right now. Don't throw up. Throw them up there. Russ Williams says, basically, don't take offense if it's unintended. Yeah. And really don't take offense if it is intended. Oh, what a great bit of advice. That's the best, is when someone's trying to insult you and you just, okay, like let it go over your head. I don't always pull that off. Sometimes they land their arrow. I let them land their arrow, but it's better when they don't. It's better when, they're shooting arrows at you and they're just totally missing and you're not taking any offense anyway, because they're not quite getting it. Sandman said, sorry, I can't think of any questions. Your hat is distracting me. Yeah, exactly. That's really how some people think about it. It's like they see the hat. Oh, something happened to my lights. Look, it's time. That's a sign. It's time to go. Okay. Thanks for hanging out. If you like this episode, please hit like and share, and especially the speech that I shared at the beginning. If you like that, if you think that might reach somebody in your world who is woke or maybe on the fence, share that video with them if you think it is something they could actually have ears to hear. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Hey, Therese. Good to see you. Okay, take care, guys. Bye.